Hello and welcome back to another brand new review where once again, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, I am delving back into the Orville for season 2. This is season 2, right? Yes, it is season 2 because the cover kind of looks similar to the season 1 one, so that's why I was a little bit confused on that. Anyway, season 2, what did I think of it? Because I literally just finished it. I literally just, well, I say binge watched the last 3 episodes. I watched episode 1 early on, the episode 11. Um, no, which one was it? Episode 12 early on today, and then literally just binged episodes 13 and 14. So what do I think? Well, it has growing pains in the beginning half of the season where it was kind of a struggle to me because I'd look at what was coming up next, and because I didn't like those episodes back when they initially aired, in 2018/2019, so that we're going back a ways away here. I'm gonna hope I have enough charge on my laptop to get through the whole half hour, but we shall see. But yeah, the first half is a little bit of a struggle to get through, but once I get over that hump, once I get to a certain point, like halfway through the season, that's when, for me, it starts to pick up. So let's start off with episode 1, Gelogia, which was originally supposed to be the series finale of series 1, but it got pushed back as the series 1 opener. And it's why I kind of struggle a bit with this episode and next episode, Primal Urges, because both episodes are Bortus centric episodes. So Gelogia is basically, it's Bortus's time of the release. We knew from episode 1 that Mocklins only take a whiz once every year, and we're at that point. And so, because it's a Mocklin tradition, it's also seen as a giant party. So that's what they do. They hold a Gelogia party. So in this, we also get introduced to a new character. Name is escaping me at the moment. But she does play a pivotal role. Um, 3 episodes later, um, which doesn't even. I'm looking here because I have the synopsis pulled up here so I can actually recognize, properly talk about the episodes and shit. So yeah, there's that. The A plot is, Kelly comes to Ed and says that she's seeing someone, and it's the teacher Cassius. And Ed is, he gets a little jealous. He steals a shuttle and does a drive by, forgetting to actually engage the cloak, which, if you're gonna do a drive by to see who's your ex's new flame, you kind of want to use the cloak there, Ed. But eventually, things settle down, everything goes ahead, and we have the great release. And it's an alright episode. Like I said, if it wasn't for the fact that the next episode was what have happened so soon after having a Bortus centric episode, I think I would have looked at both of them more favorably. But the next episode, as I said, Primal Urges, is another Bortus centric episode, and it's basically where Bortus becomes addicted to porn. Yes, that is literally the whole purpose of the story. Bortus, still having that resentment to Clyden from last season's About a Girl, um, refuses to mate with Clyden, or even spend time with him. So he opts to go basically get his release off in the holodeck. And they start to not do their thing, as certain people who are addicted to porn, that's something that they go through, where the porn just doesn't work for them anymore, so they need to find something that does. And that results in Bortus going to another member of the crew to get him to make this big, elaborate porno for him. which then starts to affect the ship because that's the A plot. The B plot is the Orville is watching this planet as their sun the sun is destroying it, and then they realize, oh shit, there's 75 people underground, but as well because of the porn virus that means they can't make multiple trips, plus the planet is being destroyed that bit quicker, so only 30 people can be saved. Eventually they work things out. End of episode. Like I said, had this episode taken place further down the season, I probably would have liked it a bit better. The same with Gelosia. I probably would have liked it a bit better had that not been the case. Episode 3 is another one that I didn't like initially, and that is the episode titled Home, and it's one of the last few appearances of Alara Katan, because she gets written out. Now, there has been a lot of discourse over why, the actress of Alara left. A lot of the rumors going around is because during season 1, she was dating Ed, they broke up, and Ed wrote her out of the show. The official reason, and again, if you choose not to believe this, that's fine. This is what I choose to believe. But the way they wanted to move forward the character of, let's say, Alara, for example, because the actress is so young, there's not really a lot of material to work with, so they wanted to have a more older character, and that's how we got the new character of Tala, Kiali, who honestly I find more attractive, because that's something I mentioned in my season 1 review. A lot of fans of the Orville find the actress who plays Alara attractive. Not me. I prefer the actress who plays, I literally just said her, Tala. So anyway, the episode features 2 Star Trek alumni. Yes, Robert Ricardo makes another return as Alara's father, but also the actor who plays the Denoblian doctor from Enterprise, who's again Dr. Phlox, makes an appearance, and they have kind of Dr. Phlox's character is pissed off at Robert Picardo's character because he disproved a theory that his son made, which then caused him to take his life, and so he wants to seek revenge. But the main reason why Alara is written off in universe is because she left Saleya so young that now she started, like a lot of Salayans tend to, well, not a lot, but basically she's starting to lose the reacclimate to Earth gravity, which it happens in the beginning of the episode when she has an arm wrestle match with Isaac, which results in a breakage of the arm, and so that is where she's going to remain. She's going to undergo a lot of therapy in order to be able to come back. Well, I say come back. She's not going to be rejoining the main cast, but she does make 2 appearances after this in the series finale of both season 2 and season 3. So I definitely changed my mind and thought this episode was a lot better than when it first aired back in 2019. However, like I said, I never really liked the character of Alara, so that is what negatively affected this episode for me in a sense. So the next episode I remember liking when it came out, and that is episode 4, Nothing Left on Earth Except Fishes. Now, this sees the return of a character from season 1. I'm going to have to pause so we can get names. Okay, so it's in this episode that it gets revealed that Ed has been seeing Lieutenant Janelle Tyler. And it's after this rewatch that I have problems with this episode. Overall, it's a great episode because, it's co-written by Brandon Braga and I believe directed by him as well. If I can quickly check, I had to lower the screen brightness. No, it wasn't directed by Brandon Braga, but it was co-written, which again has a massive Star Trek trope that featured heavily in Deep Space Nine. But anyway, yes, So what do I have issues with? Well, it was kind of teased at the end of Gelogia that there was going to be something there between Tyler and the Captain Mercer. Um, but it's literally just thrown at us in episode 4, and then it's completely scrubbed free. So the episode is basically Janal convinces Ed to use some of his vacation time. And so they decide to go, take a shuttle, go on a vacation. And as they're doing that, they get intercepted and kidnapped by Krill. And they want to get codes off of Ed so they can have, strategic military advantage. And that is when Janal Tyler is revealed to be Talea from the first season episode, where um, Ed and Malloy sneak onto the Krill ship and save her. She gets captured, taken as a prisoner. That she then escapes and undergoes a lot of, kind of like the Klingons do, in the episode The Trouble with Tribbles, where we get to see a human augment where, it was a Klingon that underwent a lot, to become human, to look human, the same with Ash Tyler from Discovery. And then the three ships all get destroyed because of the species that came to destroy them. And so Talea and Ed escape in the shuttle, in the escape pod, crash land on a planet, and they have to essentially work together to be able to go set off a distress signal so they can go be picked up. Very reminiscent of that one episode of Deep Space Nine that happened with Odo and Quark. So that's what was ringing in my head. That's why I'm saying this episode feels a lot like, your classic Star Trek episode. Eventually, day breaks, and turns out it's going to take 23 days for it to become nighttime because, um, Krill don't like UV light. And so eventually, Ed decides to go bring the communication buoy up to the highest point and send off the distress signal for the Orville instead of the Krill, because if Talea had been there, it definitely would have been the Krill. And so then they get picked up, and Ed lets her go. And that is the end of the episode. So why do I have issues with this episode? And the main reason is because of how quick we get introduced to this relationship, and it ends pretty quickly compared to Kelly's relationship with Cassius that spans a bunch of episodes before that relationship ends in Deflectors. That lasted 7 whole episodes. This only really lasted 1 episode. We see the tease of it at the end of episode 1, but between episodes 2, 3, and now, we don't see any hints of that. It's literally just thrown in her face and then immediately taken out. Had it done what they did with Kelly and Cassius, I probably would have liked this episode a bit better on rewatch. Unfortunately, because of that's what drags this episode down for me. It's still a good episode. It has a lot of Star Trek feelings for it. Like I said, it's co-written by Brandon Braga. However, because they just expect us to believe that they have been in this relationship for a couple of months, it's not really all that believable. So now we get into episode 5. All the World is a Birthday Cake. And it's another episode that I really struggled with simply because I just hate astrology. Like, it's a good episode. It has the Orville make first contact after receiving a transmission from a previously unknown species. As well as this is the episode with where Tala joins as the new chief of security. Because Patrick Warburton would don this massive makeup for like an episode or two, whilst we waited for Tala to come on, which it was funny. I like Patrick Warburton. I grew up with him as Kronk in both the Emperor's New Groove, Kronk's New Groove, and the Emperor's New School, and then of course Family Guy, and a whole bunch of other different projects that he's been a part of. Even in Men in Black 2. So, and I know they're obviously he's Joe in Family Guy, so obviously there's that bit of connection there, which is what landed him that role. But anyway, going back to all the world is a birthday cake. So the whole juxtaposition, I butchered saying that word. As to why this episode happens is because this species governs everything on astrological signs. What star were you born under, and if you're born under the specific star that went missing in the early days of this species, you're seen as a murderer. You're seen as this, that, and the other, and so they send you to this internment camp. It turns out that Kelly and Bortus, who share a birthday pretty close to each other, fit that mold, and so they get taken in the point at this internment camp, and so they have to try and figure out a way to solve it. And then they basically just use hickory pokery, jiggery pokery to make the star look like it's come back, and that's allowed these people to be freed. And that's the end of the episode. It's a good episode. It's a good a premise of an episode. However, I just hate astrology with a fiery burning passion. And so because of that, that again indirectly means I hate this episode. So the next episode is a happy refrain, um, which I believe is the episode where yes it is. It's the episode where um, Claire, Dr. Finn, um, says that she has feelings for Isaac, and so they start to build on that relationship. Though it ends pretty quickly within it in this one episode, which is a shame. But then again, knowing now that I've seen season 3, they do get back together and they do get married in the end of in season 3. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that marriage progresses for season 4, when they start filming for that next year. But yeah, so it's basically just research for Isaac. He wants to see and understand how relationships happen. So they go on a date. It goes poorly. He goes to Lamar. Lamar fixes things. Allows puts on this hollow disguise for Isaac so he can appear human, which is basically the actor who plays Isaac. Getting to do it outside of the whole robot suit, and so they make out. They sleep together, and then Isaac calls it there because that's that they've already experienced. He's already experienced everything, and then he realizes later on that, oh, I've made a tactical error because I've adapted my subroutines to go for to include Dr. Finn and all of this stuff, and I'm making these errors. And then Ed's like, oh, so basically what you're saying is you're having a human emotion where your life is better with Claire around. And so then they get back together, but it's also hinted at in episode 13 that they're not together anymore. So I think that's what happened there. Yeah, what happened is identities parts 1 and 2, which I'm about to get to, and that's what caused that relationship to end. So we get onto deflectors. So this episode sees Bortus's old flame make a reappearance, and it's an interesting one because Bortus's ex is actually interested in women, which is something that isn't supposed to happen for Mocklins. There are single gender species, only supposed to be for that one gender. But obviously, we know that not to be the case. We'll know later on that there's actually Mocklin females hidden away and other shenanigans. But eventually, Clyden, I think Bortus tells him, and he goes like, "I know what you are. I'm going to report you." So this person is like, "Oh shit. Well, because I'm such a brilliant engineer, I'm going to put the blame on him I'm going to fake my death, because if I really did commit suicide, then that would be bad for my parents." And eventually, because he develops feelings for Kiali, and so it's hunting him down and trying to prove that Clyden is innocent, which they do. He turns out that he's still alive, and he turns himself in, and he gets arrested, and he probably goes to prison. However, knowing what I know for season 3 has me looking at this in a new light. I don't think Bortus's ex ended up in that prison, because we know that the Mocklans have this black site where they bring Topa in season 3, when it's the episode where the Mocklans secede from the Union and stuff. So my guess is, because he's viewed as different and liking females, he is brought to this place and potentially is dead. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think he is dead. That's what happened to him. However, that does lead us into Identities Part 1 and 2. And had it not been for the Tale of Two Topas in Season 3, I would have said Identity Parts 1 and 2 would have been the absolute best episode, in my opinion. So, this is the mid-season. We're episodes 9 and 10 here. We're getting very close to the end. And this is the episode that makes Kaelon and the Kaelon a threat. So basically, the episode opens, part 1 opens, Isaac and Claire's, tell Marcus and Ty that they're together and stuff, and that's when Isaac deactivates. And so they decide to bring him to Kaelon, because the Kaelon are the only really ones that know how to wake him up. So they go, and it's also a way to see if they will actually join the Union. They initially were going to dismantle Isaac, but they convinced the primary to reactivate him and stuff. This upsets Ty, who then escapes to go give Isaac a drawing that he made that Isaac had dropped. And that's when they discover that the previous inhabitants of the planet were all killed. That the Kaelon were slaves, and they developed sentience, and they wanted their freedom, and so the people originally on that planet, which we do see as a flashback in season 3, which I've loved, that we got to actually see that. They installed pain receptors, and so then the Kaelon just like, what, fuck this. Biological life forms don't need to exist. Let's just go and genocide this entire planet. And that's when the Kaelon Primary's like, oh, okay, so you know this shit now? Okay, well, we were never really going to join the Union. We've actually decided that all biological life forms should not exist. So what we're going to do is we're going to take over your ship. We're going to fly all the way to Earth. We're under the pretenses that we've joined the Union, and then we're going to just wipe out all biological life forms. And that ends part 1. Part 2 picks right back up where we last left off, with them running into a ship, which the captain, I believe, was the teacher of Ed's. He utters a phrase that alerts the other ship that they are taken over by hostile threat, which obviously the Kaelon knew about. So they destroy that ship, and so eventually, let's see, it was Kelly and Gordon that eventually sneak out in a shuttle and head for Krill space. They try to explain it to the Krill, and they're not buying it, and that's when 2 Kaelon ships show up and destroy 2 of the 3 Krill ships. But then that last Krill ship manages to destroy the 2 Kaelon, and so obviously then they go back. They also manage to successfully get a warning signal to Earth. They don't know that they did, but they thankfully did, and we do get to see that, where they're like, oh, the Kaelon are coming and they plan to wipe us out. Well, fucking recall the entire fleet then. And thankfully they did get a vast majority of the fleet. And the battle was so gorgeous. I was watching it, and I was again blown away by how amazing the fight looked between the Union and the Kaelon, and then eventually the Krill show up. And it all just looked stupendous. It reminded me of the first and second battle of Chintaka from Deep Space Nine. Again, I'm referencing Star Trek. And then, as well as the battle over Cardassia Prime, as well as the battle for Deep Space Nine, the men in battles of Deep Space Nine. It was that gorgeous, and it still holds up. Like, it is absolutely gorgeous to watch. And then so eventually they decide, because Isaac switches sides. He uh, puts an EMP out, which is what allowed them to take over the ship, and then they decide to reactivate him, and he's now again a permanent member of the crew, but he can't ever go back home. And that is where the episode ends. The next episode, however, is another episode that I just don't like, and that is Lasting Impressions. Um, so, oh, hang on, sorry, I skipped an episode. Blood of Patriots. Um, is an episode that I completely skipped over because it's an episode that is honestly skippable. Like, it's a prelude to peace talks that don't really end up going anywhere with the Krill. One of Gordon's old friends who saved him during a Krill attack has escaped from a Krill prison after 20 years and has apparently destroyed 3 Krill ships under the ceasefire, and so they're trying to figure it out. He tries to involve Gordon. Gordon's not sure on it. Eventually turns on his friend. The friend ends up dead and stuff. And like I said, it's a boring episode. Blood of Patriots is a very skippable episode. However, again, Lasting Impressions, another Gordon Malloy episode. That's 2 back to back. Not great. Basically, the episode has Tim Russ in it. Yes, Tuvok from Voyager. So that's quite a few Voyager people in it. This season. With Robert Picardo and now Tuvok himself showing up. But basically, Gordon falls in love with this person named Laura, who put her phone back in 2015 into a time capsule, and so he makes a hollow, not like a hollow tape out of it, where he okay, so this laptop might go, which is fine. But basically know what happens in the last 3 episodes. Anyway, so yeah, he falls in love, thinking that stuff is going to work out for them and stuff, and then he realizes that he should have read the text because she gets back with the ex, and so he pulls a Janeway from Farhaven, where he deletes Greg the same way Janeway deletes the wife of that hologram that Janeway falls in love with. So yeah, Gordon reminds me a lot of Reginald Barkley in this episode from TNG / a bit of Voyager as well. But it's an alright episode. It does have some ramifications for season 3, but I'll get onto that next month. So yeah, the next episode is Sanctuary, and this is the episode where we learn of the other Mocklans, Moclan females that have been hidden away, and it's also the return of Havina, and it's a good episode. I like it. It's obviously again continuing on the ramifications from season 1, episode 3, About a Girl. These 2 Mocklans come on. They have a Moclan female as a stowaway. This also episode features Marina Sirtis, which is honestly a treat. She looks good then. She still looks good now. And yeah, it's a good episode because it shows because Topa is again favoring his father in terms of how he treats females, and an interesting thing comes up, where Clyden goes up to Borders and says, "Look, we need to make up our mind for in case of what happens if Mocklus succeeds from the Union." And Bordis, being the best dad he is, he's like, "I'm going nowhere. My duty is to the ship. You never liked women. In the entire time you've been standing here, you have not once addressed Commander Grayson here. You spend most of your time in our quarters, and it's no wonder that Toba is essentially taking on his traits of treating females." But eventually, they come to an agreement because Marcellus was going to subside from the Union. If the Union just doesn't recognize the Moclan females and shuts down the Underground Railroad, then Moclans will leave them alone and not try to force the corrective procedure on them. And episode ends. So now we get to the two-part finale, because even though it's not necessarily counted as part one and part two, they all roll into each other. So, episode 13, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, sees a young Kelly Grayson be brought forward 7 years into the future, because again, Ed has brought up the fact that he would like to try again with Kelly. Kelly is once again still massively against that. And so they're trying to figure out if there's a way to send, young Kelly back. Kelly wants to pursue things with Ed. Eventually, they do manage to find a way to send Kelly back. They wipe her memory, except that it doesn't work. And we know it doesn't work when Ed of 7 years ago asks Kelly out, like he did. She says no. And that branches the timeline into a what if theory for the road not taken, where basically Ed was kind of important, and so Ed and Kelly had to have gotten together so that way they could divorce and Kelly could feel bad and get him the captaincy seat on the Orville, so that way Claire Finn can go there, and then they have that Isaac has the relationship with Claire's kids, which then results in Isaac turning on his people, saving them. In this timeline, that doesn't happen. And it's interesting that they put it all down to Ed being the one to stop it all. Be responsible for stopping the Kalon from winning. Well, in all actual fact, was yes, it was necessary for Ed to be the captain of the Orville. It's actually really down to Claire Finn. Claire Finn and her kids were the key factor in what caused Isaac to defact on his people. But eventually they sort it all out and timeline is fixed and end of season. So, is season 2 better than season 1? The answer is yes. Whilst, yes, I don't like a lot of the episodes in this season, that especially, like I said, had they actually had it so that we're not having two Bortus episodes back to back, I think I would have, like I said, would have liked those a bit better. The early season for me is a bit of a slog to get through, but now that I've gotten through it, I'm happy enough. I do think season 2 is better than season 1, mainly just for Identity Part 1 and 2. But yeah, that is going to wrap this review up. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And I shall see you all on Monday for my review of The Little Vampire, one of my favorite childhood films as a kid. I'll see you all next time.